The next morning, when people saw that tiny kitten, they couldn't believe what they were seeing. A brutal snowstorm had passed through the town overnight. Temperatures had dropped so low that even car windows were completely frozen. And right in the middle of it all, a wild deer had stood over a freezing kitten the entire night, just to keep it alive. People were recording videos, some were crying, but the most shocking part was still coming. Because when rescuers finally arrived to take the kitten away, the deer didn't leave. It stood across the street, watching quietly, like it was saying goodbye to someone it loved. And in the days that followed, the entire world would find out why a wild deer risked everything for a tiny stray kitten. In a small, snowy town in America called Maple Creek, winters were always harsh. But that year was different. People stayed inside most of the time. The streets stayed empty. And on those same streets, a tiny stray kitten wandered alone. People called him Ashi. Ashi would sit outside doors for a few seconds, then slowly move on, like he was hoping someone, just once, might let him inside. But no one ever did. One night, a heavy snowstorm began. Ashi curled up outside a closed cafe. His body was shaking uncontrollably. He let out weak little meows, but the wind swallowed every sound. After a while, he tried to stand, but collapsed right back into the snow. His eyes slowly started closing. Then suddenly, something moved near the forest. Ashi barely lifted his head. A large wild deer was walking toward him. Ashi shrank back in fear, but the deer didn't attack. Instead, it slowly sat down beside him, then gently wrapped its body around the kitten, blocking the freezing wind. And for the first time that night, Ashi stopped shaking. The next morning, Emma was driving back home after her night shift. She worked as a veterinary assistant. As she passed the cafe, she suddenly hit the brakes. Something felt wrong. When she looked closer, she froze. A wild deer was protecting a tiny, freezing kitten in the middle of the snow. Emma slowly walked closer. The deer immediately became alert, but it didn't run. It just watched her carefully, like it was deciding whether she could be trusted. Emma's eyes filled with tears. She softly said, "I'm not going to hurt him." A long silence followed. Then slowly, the deer lowered its head. Emma carefully wrapped Ashi inside her coat and carried him to her car. But as she drove away, she looked in the rearview mirror. The deer was still there, standing still, watching them leave. And somehow, Emma knew this wasn't just a random moment. Days passed. Ashi slowly started recovering in Emma's home. He finally had warmth, food, safety, but every night, something strange happened. At exactly 9 p.m., Ashi would sit by the window and stare outside, like he was waiting for someone. And then, the deer would appear near the forest edge. It never came close. It just stood there quietly for a few minutes. Then, disappeared again. This continued for days. Until one night, Emma decided to follow the deer into the forest. Deep inside the snowy woods, the deer stopped near a broken wooden fence. Emma walked closer, and what she saw broke her heart. Under the snow was a small, lifeless fawn. Emma froze. Tears filled her eyes. Everything suddenly made sense. The deer hadn't seen Ashi as just a kitten. It had seen something else, something small, cold, and completely alone, just like its own lost baby. And maybe that's why it couldn't let him die. A few days later, the story spread across Maple Creek. People started gathering outside Emma's home every night. Videos went viral online. But then one night, the deer didn't show up. Ashi waited by the window. Minutes passed, then hours. Nothing. Emma immediately felt something was wrong. She ran into the forest. After searching through the snow, she saw blood on the ground. Her heart dropped. She followed the tracks deeper and finally found the deer. It was trapped, its leg badly injured in a hunter's trap. The animal was weak, barely able to move. But what shocked Emma the most wasn't the injury. It was Ashi. The tiny kitten was curled up beside the injured deer, pressing his small body against it to keep it warm, the same way the deer had once protected him. Emma stood frozen, tears running down her face, because now, the one who was saved was trying to save someone else. Not every act of love needs words. Some of the deepest connections happen in silence. A wild deer and a tiny stray kitten taught an entire town something they would never forget. Kindness is never wasted. The love you give without expecting anything in return always finds its way back. After this story, Maple Creek changed. People started building shelters for stray animals. Kids began winter donation drives, and Emma eventually opened a small rescue center. Outside it, she placed a photo. A wild deer standing beside a tiny kitten in the snow. Moral lesson: the world is not changed by powerful people alone. Sometimes a small act of kindness can change thousands of lives.